The Good Citizens Podcast.
So along the subject lines of, politicians and the government doing things for specifically African American people, for black people in this country, is something that's, Esquire touched on it a little bit, and that's reparations. And so I think that's something that we can talk about a little bit as to, is it something that we think we need or something that would be good for black people in this country, and is it something that we even think we can actually do, and would we use it right? Would it help us?
Do I feel like reparations are warranted? Absolutely. First and foremost. So I think we cannot understate the economic effect that free labor had on the start of this country, right? Our ancestors literally built this country, and for that should have been compensated. And even now, if you want to go way later, you have the prison system, right? That's another form of free labor. And that's intentional. So I really look at it like, yes.
Hold up. You mentioned the prison system. You know how much prisoners get paid to go out and fight fires versus firefighters?
I know.
All right.
I don't.
You can continue.
So
it's like less than $2 an hour.
They're risking their life, literally. Yeah. So the point being that I do absolutely feel that reparations are warranted. Do I feel that we should just go out and give every black person a check? No, because I feel that money would be gone, very quickly, and those dollars that started in the black community would immediately go into other communities. So I think that it should be instituted.
You saying niggas would take it to the Gucci store?
I'm saying imagine early 2000s if everybody would have got a reparations check. Like, everybody would have had an Escalade with spinners. Wow. It's like hella throwback jerseys.
Spinning Mitchell and Ness. Shout out
all
to Mitchell
the Rockaware velour suits.
Everybody, huh?
I'm not saying everybody. Now, there are people who would have taken that check and flipped it. But let's just be realistic. I think in our community, we learn how to be consumers instead of entrepreneurs. And so with being an entrepreneur, you can take that money and learn how to flip that and turn that into something else, multiply it. But that would not happen. And so I think in order to actually make reparations long lasting, you have to institute systems. And so,
what do you think, Esquire?
It's definitely warranted. I mean, that's just not a question. I think that there's a case for it from slavery, from the sharecropping days. I think from the white terror that was inflicted on black people in the South that caused the Great Migration. From the point where they migrated to the West and to the Midwest, only to be robbed of the opportunity for home ownership in the way white people were given home ownership, and the way that racism continues to manifest itself today through denials of access to capital and whatnot and everything. And so I think that it's an ongoing issue that needs to be rectified. I think the country needs to take a real hard look at how we can bring that about. But to me, checks are not off the table. Yes, we would want to have people gain some sense of financial literacy so that they can learn how to hold on to that money, use it to grow it, to build generational wealth for their families. But, we're not going to sit here and act like the government has not just been writing checks. I mean, they wrote checks for the Japanese after World War II. They've written checks for survivors of the Holocaust here in this country when we didn't even take part in the Holocaust. And some people don't even know that they gave reparations to slave owners after they
lost their slaves.
Right.
They paid them for the financial loss.
So it's like, I mean, they can write us a check, and clearly, like, right in today's, they wrote a check for COVID, for the pandemic, and nobody was like, oh, well, where are these people going to spend their money? Where are they going to spend their unemployment checks? And Apple's, revenue was up in the second quarter in 2020. Mm-hmm. So, I mean, people were spending money. Nobody's complaining about that. Like, I mean, cut a check. Like, or, there's tons of stuff. No taxes for black people.
Right. That's what
no income taxes, no property taxes.
Free school. Free
schools of choice. Down payment assistance with down payment assistance, gifts for down payments on any home you want. You know, free health care. I mean, there are tons of ways we can attack this issue. Tons of ways that we can equal the playing field. And, you know, the only reason we won't do it is because they don't want to do it.
Exactly.
Pretty much.
I think people always want to negate the effects of like generational wealth, and people like to forget the fact that, you know, Black people were not able to generate generational wealth, right? And when we actually did,
We're generations behind.
Dolo.
Cut the check. Hell yeah. we been do that. Cut the check. What'd you say? Free down payment assistance, free education, all that shit. No taxes. I love that one.
Right.
Like, yeah, all that. Run it.
So, what do you guys say, to play devil's advocate here? What do you guys say to the person that says, okay, but where's the line? So where do we draw the line, and how long do these reparations need to last? How, like, you know what I mean? Like, to say, so they're going to say, oh, so are we just going to give Black people this money forever, or are we going to let them go to school for free forever? Like, where's the line? What's
at least a generation. How long was slavery?
Can I say 400 years?
That's what I'm saying. Figure that shit out. There's people in place to figure that out. Like they figure everything else out. It's not that hard. Like E said, they're not doing it because they don't want to do it.
Exactly.
The Good Citizens Podcast.